Kindness is not a new concept. It's something that's always been around, but it's something that we always need a reminder of, to show that regardless of the differences in race, religion, ethnicity, culture, background, regardless of all the reasons the media tells us we should hate on one another, the common thread that ties us all together is kindness. And if we recognize that and see that beauty within each person, we can change this world in the most extraordinary way.
We are thrilled to hear about each of our honorees this evening who are making an impact in their own way through causes they are passionate about.
Most of my volunteerism is through education. Helping your children do and give back to the community it's priceless. So whether it was Center Play School, Solomon Schechter, or running the Tot Shabbat program at my synagogue, then I met people from Hadassah. And like Lador Vador, my grandmother was a member of Hadassah, a proud member. My great aunt, my mother, my sisters were all members of Hadassah. I made my daughter a member of Hadassah. I actually made my sons and my husband associate members. And I've been involved in Hadassah ever since.
My volunteer work was through the synagogue, I would say initially, and the American Cancer Society's Cancer Ball. My most important focus at the time now has been about bringing attention to the orphan disease of ALS. And my boys and the idea of tzedakah and mitzvah learned early on to get involved in that way.
Our kids don't really know any other way than to give back to the community. The last few years I kind of have been focused on Jewish family and children's service. I really feel that when the Jewish community and the Jewish organizations, they really take you in as a family and they embrace you, and you feel so wonderful that you're able to give back.
A lot of people can do general things, but only Jews will really work for other Jews. And I feel like I grew up with Federation. It allowed me tremendous growth. I mean, at that point, women weren't really in the forefront, but it was being involved in Federation that I learned how to read a budget. I learned how to speak. In those days, I never spoke above a whisper.
We were just coming of age, I think, in terms of developing ourselves as women, and I think these feminist values really inspired us to look for leadership roles in our community.
My mother was very active in an organization when I was growing up, and I saw how incredibly fun it was that you could actually make a difference by your actions. So when we moved out here, it just seemed natural that I joined Hadassah. And I found out, through my experience of raising through the ranks of my own chapter and then going on to a region board, was my first experience of how truly that the group of women can make such a huge impact on the world.
When I grew up, my parents had very modest financial means, but they always stressed the concept of being charitable. So they encouraged us to do volunteer work even when we were young, and they did volunteer work for organizations as our way of doing something charitable. And as things got better, they were able to contribute more, and as things got better for me, I was able to contribute more. But the volunteer part is very rewarding.
It makes you feel good. It's purely selfish. You feel good helping others. And having my small children, it was the best feeling because they could ask me what I was doing and I could tell them I was helping someone, or I was, working on this or fundraising for that. And now that they're both in high school, they know how important it is. And if there's a local fundraiser going on, it makes me so proud that they buy a ticket on their own.
When my grandson was 4 years old, he called me on the phone. He called me Lama for Laura and Grandma. And he said, could we go to Temple? It was for Friday night. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and we bonded as very special. And I became quite involved. My husband's quite involved. So sitting on the bima, listening to the children recite from the Torah is overwhelming, and I pray that they continue with their Jewish lifelong learning. And I hope I can make a difference, okay? And I say it so often, l'dor b'dor, from generation to generation.
My children know, even when they're visiting, that I'm going to shul, and they might sort of laugh at me for doing it, but I think that it sets a standard for them so that when we're not at home, sometimes we'll come back and we'll find that they've lit Shabbat candles on Friday night, and that makes me feel so wonderful because that legacy is being continued.
I started working at Sons of Israel, and from there started volunteering and knowing people, and Sons of Israel actually became my second home, which is how I grew up. My synagogue with my parents was my second home. I taught Hebrew school, I was principal of Hebrew schools, so I just love it. It's just who I am and what I want to do.
It's not about what we do, it's about who we are. Just being, and that's something that all people need to know. Everyone makes a difference. Whether they're being honored or they're not being honored, just being who you are changes people. When you walk into a room, being who you are, you impact people and you leave an impression on people.
I've been a member of Monmouth Reform Temple for many years, and at present chair the Caring Network. We provide transportation, we provide meals if there are people who are sick in our community. We stay with people who need help in their homes. Jewish Monmouth Cares is a new program started through Federation, and we train these individuals to go into hospitals to visit patients, and it's worked very, very well. It's been such an inspiration.
I started out raising money in 1996 for a facility in New York City called Hope Lodge. When patients are going through chemotherapy, it's really important for them to get out of their heads and doing something meditative, and knitting happens to be it. So that's one of the things I do. I have my own foundation. I work with a facility here in Ocean Grove called Mary's Place, doing similar things. And I get so much more out of it than I think they do. It fills my soul.
I'm currently with the Friendship Circle, and there we teach the special needs children, seeing their faces and how happy they are when they just want a friendship and they just want to be accepted into the community. I can't express how much it is my life, and it is seeing those kids, and my child also has special needs, and we have come to Friendship Circle because of him, and he now has friends.
We had the opportunity during the Hurricane Sandy, which is probably one of the most devastating that reached our area, and we had the opportunity here to help people who didn't have power, who didn't have food, and we just did it because we could. And we opened for breakfast here when we're not open for breakfast, for people who just didn't have any place to go and eat warm food. And we did Thanksgiving. We did 40 turkeys in our ovens so that we can provide people, for turkey dinners. And then as we got our power, we just continued it until, the need wasn't quite as much anymore, but we just kept cooking.
It's not about how much money you have or how many friends you have or how much, it's about the impact that you make on people's lives, the people's lives that you touch. Every person can make a difference. And kindness, the act of giving of yourself, is the greatest tool to empower someone to catch that glimpse of how special they are, so that they can continue to give back to the world in a great way.